So just make sure that you take the time to read through it and try to code it yourself before you get to the answer. Now remember that in this case, this is just for testing. You want to go into your hidden word Java file to be able to code it through it. As you can tell, this is going to be implementing the entire class, including constructor and methods. But let's go through the description. We consider a guessing game in which a player tries to guess a hidden word. The hidden word contains only capital letters. It has a length known to the player. A guess contains only capital letters as well. And has the same length as the hidden word. Since the player knows how many letters there are, that's how many words they're going to enter. And they give you an example in here. We're going to go through the rules in a few minutes. Notice that in this case, it has 5 letters for the uh, hidden word, and each of the guesses also has 5 letters, and they're all capital letters as stated. The hidden word class will be used to represent the hidden word in the game. The hidden word is passed to the constructor. So therefore, whenever they create the object puzzle, which is of type hidden word, and they call you constructor, they are going to be the the parameter that you're going to be taking in will be the hidden word itself. So let's go through and start coding the class. So public class hidden word. Let's actually close them, open them and close them at the same time. We're going to need some instance variables, but we'll come back to those in a second. Let's go start our constructor. So be public hidden word. And what's going to be the parameter that's going to come in? So therefore, that's going to be a string, and that's going to be the hidden word that the user is going to have to guess within the game. So it'll be a string, and we're just going to call it word, or you can hidden word or anything else is fine. And the only thing that we need to do is to initialize a variable. So therefore, we need an instance variable. Remember that you want to place all your instance variables as private, so no one outside the class is able to access it. It's going to be a string word. And since I'm using the same variable name for the instance variable and for the parameter, whenever I initialize it, it will be word equal to word. But I need to be able to differentiate whether which one's the instance variable and which one is the parameter that's coming in. I'm going to use this dot. Or if you want, you can give it a different name for the parameter so you don't have to worry about this. But you want to get used to it because you'll see it often within your code and within the APXM. And that's it for our instance variable. That's it for our constructor. Now let's continue reading. The class contains a method called getHint. Now getHint is going to take in a guess and it's going to produce a hint. So notice that every time they call the getHint, they use the object name, the variable puzzle, which means that getHint is going to be a non-static method, and the parameter that's going to take in is going to be a string. So let's go and build, and we're just going to say, and let's go and label, make a few comments in here. This is the constructor. And if you're able to make those on your APXM, that kind of gives, in case you make a mistake, they know, or they can read your code a little faster. And this is called the method getHint. So it's going to be a public method, it's going to be non-static, and it's going to return a string. The method name is called getHint. The parameter that's going to take in, we say was going to be a string. And that's going to be the guess that they are making. So let's go and name it guess. You want to name your variable something meaningful so that way you know what they mean, and whoever's grading it, you'll get a better sense of what's happening within your code. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that you need to return a string. So most of the time, not always, but most of the time, you're going to have to create a variable of type string. And in this case, this is going to produce a hint, so I'm just going to label it hint. And I'm going to initialize it as an empty string. Now let's go through the rules. So after a guess is made, the player is given a hint that is based on a comparison between the hidden word and the guess. Each position in the hint contains a character that corresponds to the letter in the same position in the guess. Since they're the same size, so each of them, the index 0, the first letter corresponds to the first letter, and so on. The following rules determine the characters that will appear in the hint, and this is the hint that we are going to be returning. Now, in this case, we are going through each of the letters in the hint and matching them to the guess. So therefore, we know that we need to be able to do a loop. And we know for loop or while loop. We know how many letters are in the word, so therefore we're just going to use a for loop. For int I equal to 0. We declare, we initialize it to 0, while I is less than what? Up to where do we want to stop? So since the words are exactly the same length, you can use word.length or guess.length. In this case, I'm just going to use word.length. Remember, it's a method for a string and I++. So this is going to allow us to iterate through each of the letters. Now let's go to rule number 1. If the letter in the guess is also the same position as in the hidden word, we're going to return the matching letter. So for example, on the first example, if you notice, we have an A on the second position, and it matches the A on the hidden word. So therefore, we're going to return an A. If you notice on the second, the first matches the first, so therefore we're going to return it. So how can we do that? So we're going to do an if statement. How can we match one word to, or one letter to the other? So we are very tempted to use char@, but we have to be careful. A lot of times on your AP exam day, you're going to be using substring. So we'll use that instead. So we're going to compare to see if the word substring I, comma, and we just need one letter at a time, so it'll be I plus 1. Remember that whenever you use a substring, this is the initial spot, and this is where it's going to end, but it doesn't include that letter. So therefore, this is just going to give you one letter at a time. And we're very tempted to do a double equal sign, but we can't, right? Whenever, let me just type in the second one, substring. So the question is, how come can I use a double equal sign when I'm comparing it? Because this is going to return a substring. Now, if you were using char@, then you can use a double equal sign, because char@ will return a character, which is a primitive type, which can be compared with a double equal sign. In this case, I wanted to use dot equals. Let me go and place my parentheses at the end. And notice I'm placing additional spaces just so it's a little easier to read for you guys and for myself as well. So therefore, if they're the same, I'm going to add that letter to the hint. So it'll be hint plus equal. And I'm going to add the specific letter, so it'll be word. Whether you want to use the word or the guess letter, doesn't matter, they're exactly the same. Now, let me just place this as rule number 1. Same letter. Now this will be rule number 2. If the letter in the guess is also in the hidden word, but in different position. So if it's in the if the letter in the guess is somewhere in there, we need to place a plus in between. So for example, where's a plus? In this case, let's go to example 3. If we have a, This is on the third position. There's an A on the second position. So we're going to place a, it's in there, but it's now in the correct location. So we're going to place a plus. Basically, just to be able to tell the user, you're close, but wrong spot. So we're going to create an if statement. Now, how can I find out if a specific letter is within the word? If there was only a method that I can use, correct, I can use index of. So word dot index of, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking within the word, but I'm looking for the specific letter. So therefore I'm going to use of the guess. Guess dot substring I plus 1. So therefore, this is going to return the letter, and I'm going to find out if where is the index of the letter. If it's not found, if it's greater than -1, correct? If it's 0 or if it finds it, it's going to give me the location. But if it's not found, it's going to return a -1. Then I'm going to add not the letter itself, but I'm going to add a plus in that location. If it's found, if it's found, it's going to be placed as a plus. If it's not found, therefore I'm going to use an else statement, because if it's not found, I'm going to use a star to indicate that letter is nowhere to be found within the word, within the hidden word. So this will be row number 3. Now we have to be careful, because if it does find it, it's going to replace the letter. We don't want to go into this if statement. So therefore, let me change this rule. I want to change it to the very, and I'm going to place this as an else statement. So therefore, if it finds it, he adds the letter. If it doesn't, then it's going to see if it's somewhere else. If it's somewhere else, he adds a plus. If it's nowhere else, then it adds a asterisk. And that will be the code for this. Let me just confirm. Sometimes I just usually make little mistakes. Let's try it out. Yep, missing a return. Right. And remember, that is something that we always need to make sure that we are not returning the string, and that will actually deduct a full point from your return hint. There you go. So that's something that you want to make sure that you keep in track is that I initially, like I was going to do at the beginning, I usually once I type in the hint and create the variable, I right away type in my return and just leave it to the very end. Doesn't mean that you're going to leave it there. Anyways, have a great day and I'll see you guys next time.